Okay, we understand why drafting and even the term drafting is important. So how do we go about actually drafting? There is not one set way to draft, and over time, you will need to learn how you draft best. However, in this video, we'll talk about a few tips that experienced writers use to help make the drafting process effective and enjoyable. The first tip involves your context. Where you draft will influence how effective you are when you draft. In general, you want to avoid distractions. Different people will be distracted by different things. But I've found that sound can be either a distraction or a helper when drafting. Writers I know tend to either work in absolute silence or listen to music. If listening to music, it would be wise to select music that you're familiar with. That way, it will eventually fade into the background and you will likely be unaware of it. Listening to music in this way can help many writers focus because it makes random environmental noise more difficult to hear. Because of this, many writers can work in busy public places without being overly distracted. Another tip involves time and focus. If you have a solid plan, there's no reason you need to write a draft all in one sit-in. So if your plan breaks up your writing project into 3 or 4 major sections, you can draft one section, go do something else, and come back to work on another section. As writing tasks become longer and longer, breaking up drafting in this way becomes absolutely necessary to avoid becoming exhausted and ineffective. For example, every professor I know set small but consistent drafting goals each day when they were writing their doctoral dissertations. Whether you are drafting a 200-page book or a 5-page writing project, having a solid plan means you can draft sections when it is convenient and avoid writing fatigue. One tip that I think is critically important for most writers is to avoid writing introductions and conclusions in your first draft. Remember, we've mentioned that writing is a recursive process. There is a lot of back and forth and repetition. Even with the best plans in place, drafting is going to involve some invention and discovery. We will often be writing to learn. With this in mind, it makes more sense to craft your introduction and conclusion after you know what the rest of the text is going to look like. Another reason to avoid writing the introduction first is that getting started on a writing task can often be stressful. Staring at a blank page or blank screen can make us wonder how we will ever fill it with words. This can lead writers to labor over their first words, considering exactly how to get the writing task flowing. This will slow you down, and it will stress you out. If you already have a plan, get started on drafting the sections you've planned. Since you have thought about those sections already, the actual writing will come quickly, get you into a writing rhythm, and build your confidence. And this brings me to my last tip. Don't worry about making your first draft perfect. Since you will be doing additional revision and drafting, the important thing is to start making the transition from the work you did in your planning to a connected draft. So start with your draft and get your ideas down in sentences. These are just a few tips to get you started, but they are important ones. In the next video, we'll talk about a few more tips to make sure you are able to steadily move forward in your drafting process.